With every shoe brand seemingly going 40+ millimeter stack heights and plated midsoles, Topo has decided to go with a more traditional approach to their up-tempo trainer. But how does it fare in the running game? Meet the Topo Specter 2. What's up everybody? Welcome to Rad Dad Bod TV. I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and here we review running shoes. If it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps in the description below. Feel free to jump around to the various aspects of the review, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate if you came back eventually and watched the full video, as I put a lot of time and effort into making these as beneficial as possible. Now, before we dive into the specifics of the Topo Specter 2, I do want to get some disclaimers and disclosures out of the way. I was sent this shoe for the purpose of review directly from Topo. That being said, I was not compensated for this video, nor did they ask me to make any specific video. As such, no one gets to watch these reviews beforehand, and these thoughts are entirely my own. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about the intended use of the shoe and price. The details provided to me from Topo state that this is a high-performance max cushion trainer designed for up-tempo, long-distance running. So in that sense, this is probably similar to a lot of what I would call super trainers out there. The difference is Topo has gone with more of a traditional approach in the sense that there is no plate in the shoe. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but for the sake of this review, we will be evaluating this as a max cushion up-tempo trainer. Now the shoe comes in at about $165, which honestly for this category of like a fast, highly cushioned shoe is pretty normal. In fact, it's kind of a little bit on the lower end of normal, seeing as a lot of brands have their daily trainers or their max cushion daily trainers kind of in that $160 to $170 range. So from a price standpoint, this actually fits very, very competitively in the market, especially for an up-tempo shoe. Now breaking down some of the specs, we have a 37mm heel and a 32mm forefoot for a 5mm heel to toe drop. Topo is one of those brands that does have zero drop shoes as well, and my understanding is they typically go 0, 3, and 5. So this is the higher end for Topo, but still on the lower end of heel to toe drop overall. From a weight standpoint, it comes in at 8.1 ounces in a men's size 9, and so honestly that's fairly lightweight overall for more of a max cushion shoe. Many of the max cushion shoes, even those that are made for a little bit more speed, are closer to that 10-ounce range, so fairly light overall. Speaking of the fit of the shoe, I would say lengthwise this shoe fits true to size. I typically run in a 10.5, and this is a men's 10.5 and fit very comfortably. The shoe tends to run wide in 2 areas and somewhat narrow actually in the 3rd area. So the toe box, as you can see, it is foot shaped. This is very typical for a Topo. Every single Topo, from my understanding and my knowledge, has a foot shaped toe box, so you're going to get that consistently there, and the volume in that is very, very nice, so you do have plenty of room to breathe. The heel itself as well seems to be somewhat wide, though not sacrificing on lockdown due to kind of the curvature of the upper here. But you get good lockdown in the heel, but it is a little bit wider, it is a little bit roomier, but with ample cushion to keep you locked in place. And then the midfoot is actually surprisingly narrow overall. I don't know if I would call it like a full narrow shoe. I think that like standard runners are going to enjoy it, but from a wide-footed runner perspective, I don't know that it would be suitable, honestly, for a wide-footed runner. And so don't be deceived simply by the wide toe box. I do feel like the midfoot feels almost narrow, if not kind of more of a standard fit. Talking about the upper, we have a recycled mesh upper, which is fairly breathable and fairly lightweight. It's fairly simple overall. I don't feel like it did anything like crazy spectacular, but at the same time, I felt that it didn't get in the way, which sometimes, especially with max cushion shoes, they just tend to do a little bit too much. So you have some really good strategically placed cushion there in the heel that's going to keep your foot locked in place. And while you don't have a gusseted tongue, the laces do run through little hoops on the tongue, which keeps it really securely in place, and I didn't find any shifting. The tongue itself is also that same mesh, and it is thinner than the overall upper, I would say, but it does have some slight cushion to prevent some lace bite kind of up there on the upper ankle. The lacing system is pretty normal, and like I said, as far as overall lockdown and security, because you do have kind of a little bit more narrow of a midfoot, I feel like the lockdown is really, really good, and I didn't feel any shifting in the shoe while still having plenty of room to breathe. And so if you were to take this on a long run, and like a very long run where your feet are going to swell a little bit, you're going to have plenty of space for that, and I wouldn't be concerned overall. All in all, I think it's just a solid upper. And from a midsole standpoint, we're dealing with a fully Pebax or Piva midsole. That is going to be one of those super critical foams that you typically find in racing shoes. What's really unique about this shoe is typically with these kind of more up-tempo trainers nowadays, you'd get a nylon plate or a plastic or a Pebax plate, something along those lines within the shoe that would add some more rigidity. But I think the overall geometry of the shoe allows it to still be very, very stable underfoot while still getting that pop and responsiveness. You can see it doesn't have anything that's going to prevent kind of that spring, but again, it's a fairly wide base, and you get this big heel flare right here, right? So you've got a really, really pronounced kind of rocker pattern, which is going to keep you moving regardless of if you're a heel striker, midfoot striker, forefoot striker. I will say, as someone who heel strikes as I fatigue, I did find that to be a little bit annoying on some slower runs, but if I was kind of in that moderate up-tempo kind of tempo threshold pace and above, then I didn't notice it at all, and the shoe felt really, really smooth. I think the midsole underneath is up there with some of my favorite shoes of the year. The more I think about this right now, I'm trying to decide whether I want to put this in my top 3 for 2024, but we'll have to kind of evaluate once we've gone through all of the shoes for the year. But I do think that this is definitely up there, just in the sense that the pace versatility of the shoe is spot on. It's easy enough on your feet that you can run easy, that you can run relaxed. It is responsive enough that you could take it up tempo to kind of threshold tempo range. And I do think that it works also for more traditional speed workouts, though it's probably not going to be my favorite for like 200, 400 meter repeats, but you could. And that's kind of the point, is like it really can do a little bit of everything. And if I were to go do like a road 20 miler and didn't want a plate in my shoe, then this would definitely be one of the shoes that I'd be reaching for. So all in all, like the underfoot feel is responsive. It's not overly soft. It's not overly squishy by any means, but it's not firm either. You get that really nice balance of responsiveness and kind of squish. The outsole has some nice strategically placed rubber that is fairly durable. I ran in all different terrains in the shoe, ran on treadmill, ran on road, ran on track, and I can see quite a bit, to be honest. I shouldn't say like quite a bit. I do see a good amount of wear just kind of on that forefoot area, and I'm guessing that that just is coming from the track and running on the track in them. And so I do have some questions about the long-term durability of this outsole, but in terms of just overall performance, I thought it performed very, very well, and it definitely added instead of taking away from the shoe. And I love that it didn't add a ton of excess weight, because again, with some of these more up-tempo trainers, when they go and put like a robust outsole on, sometimes it just weighs the bottom of the shoe down. So all in all, I think really, really solid on the outsole and midsole kind of construction. Now, as far as who is this shoe for, honestly, this is kind of a shoe that could be for everyone. I think that if you're someone who can only afford one shoe, but you prefer something that is a little bit more up-tempo, something that is going to be really, really versatile, and you want something that has some like max cushion, but isn't going to feel like overly plush or overly soft and slow, which is usually the case with most max cushion shoes, then this is going to be an excellent option. Again, it's just a really, really versatile, really, really like great shoe overall. You could use it as a daily trainer. You can use it for that up-tempo trainer. The versatility is just top notch. I think obviously those who want a little bit wider overall of a fit, but again, I just don't know about that midfoot. Feels just a lot narrower than you would expect. But yeah, not really narrow like overall. So if you are a wide-footed runner, it may be worth you going in and kind of checking it out and getting it fitted, just to see if you do like how that midfoot kind of locks down for you. I think those who are looking to maybe run their first marathon and they don't want a carbon plate, or they're nervous about using carbon plates, this is the kind of shoe that I think is perfect for that. And I even reviewed another shoe recently that claimed to be like an ultra running road shoe, which I just felt like it was supportive, it was good, but it's hard to really say like, yeah, I would feel confident running a road ultra in that. I do feel confident in this shoe, honestly. The more I speak about the shoe, the more I realize how high I actually am on the shoe. I'm going on vacation tomorrow, and although I've put my miles in on this, so I have to prioritize miles on some other shoes, this is the kind of shoe that you want to bring on vacation because you can bring one and do everything in it. Now, as far as comparisons go, this is honestly, again, sticking with the theme of like my top 3 shoes of the year, the Rebel V4 was one that really popped to me. As kind of one of my top 3 of the year, maybe my favorite shoe of the year. And I think that the Specter 2 has similar overall sensations, but is honestly a better overall fitting shoe in the upper. The Rebel V4 felt a little bit overly wide, and you get the same width here, but with that better fitting kind of midfoot, at least for me, from a lockdown standpoint. So that's a bonus. And then the Rebel V4 felt a little bit short, but not so short that you wanted a half size up, especially with kind of the width of the shoe. And so it kind of is a better fitting overall shoe in that sense. Now, the Rebel V4, I also wouldn't be as confident for long runs. I feel like the foam, it's a mix of an EVA and a PIBA foam, and I just feel like it would probably bottom out for you a little bit on a longer run. And so the Specter 2, I think, is going to go the distance. So if you really like the Rebel V4 and you're maybe even using this as like your daily trainer instead of your up-tempo daily trainer, then the Specter 2 could be a really good training companion or just an alternate option. Speaking of kind of other options on the market, the Brooks Hyperion Max 2 is kind of the similar use case of the Specter 2. More of an up-tempo trainer that you can use for long run speed sessions, supposed to be a little bit more up-tempo and is more of a max cushion. But then you see in it's got that plate in it, not a carbon plate. I think it's a plastic plate. I'd have to double check my notes. But, you know, again, similar overall use case. The difference is that with that plate and with the foam for the Hyperion Max 2, this is a much firmer overall sensation. So if you want something that's very, very firm, a little bit more snappy, then this is probably going to be your move. It kind of gives you the illusion almost of ground feel with that snap, versus if you want something that's going to be a little bit smooth, a little bit more rolling, then the Specter 2 is kind of going to be your move. A lot of the times these kinds of conversations just come down to preference. I wouldn't say neither is better than the other, but for me, I really like not having a plate if I'm going to rate something really, really high, because I don't like to use plates more than maybe twice a week. So you could use this daily for me, while you could only use this on specific days for, again, my use case. Now, the one shoe I don't have and have not tried that may be able to kind of dethrone this one, but is going to be much higher in price point, will be the Asics Superblast 2, which I believe comes in at $225, if not $200. So that's another kind of super trainer, max cushion, super trainer, up-tempo trainer that does not have a plate. So it makes it incredibly versatile. I've heard a lot of people saying that that's their shoe of the year right now. So if you just think that this maybe is the light version, right, or much cheaper version, at least from a value perspective, you're getting a lot more. So from a final thoughts perspective here, again, honestly, I didn't realize how much I loved this shoe until I really started talking about the shoe and starting to make comparisons to other shoes. This shoe just can really kind of do it all. So if you want to run fast, you can run fast in it. The only type of run where I feel like it maybe doesn't really shine is going to be like interval sessions. But if you're doing longer intervals, like mile repeats, even like 1,000-meter repeats, I do think that this is a really, really great option overall. So, you know, Topo Specter 2, very, very impressed with what Topo is doing and the direction that they're headed. I think they're a phenomenal brand, and I think that there's a reason that a lot of other kind of zero drop, you know, more wide toe box fans are moving over to Topo these days. So they absolutely knocked it out of the park with this. It's a big winner. And with that, we'll just say that's my review of the Topo Specter 2. Now, if you're still watching at this point, please do me a favor, go ahead and hit that like and follow button. It goes a long way in helping me be able to do more and more of these videos for each and every one of you. And we'll just wrap up leaving you guys with a question, which is, what is your opinion on foot-shaped toe boxes? Do you think that they are necessary or just kind of a gimmick? Let me know in the comments below. We'll see everybody.